Welcome to Mastering Your Monday podcast. And this is the show that talks about boundaries, work-life balance, and living a life where you have control. This is for highly driven professionals who want to develop a more balanced professional and personal life and live out their true values. Those who are ready to grab the reins and change the status quo. The professional who's ready to have a life again and who's ready to take a stand, living in a way that you feel respected, valued, and fulfilled each and every day. We talk about topics like setting boundaries, taking risks, life management, and all the tips, techniques, and strategies to help you master your Monday, one day at a time. Hey, Michelle O'Neill here. As you know, I love a great conversation. So come on, pull up a chair, ringside that is, and let's talk the real deal today on episode 7. Is healthy comfort food even possible? Let me start by telling you I am a Southern girl born and bred. My first 6 years, I grew up with my grandma being a constant staple in my day to day. And for me, that meant a warm kitchen and great food. Things like collard greens, turkey wings, cornbread, homemade from scratch, hot rolls, fried fish, grits, hot homemade cinnamon buns that would make Cinnabon have a run for their money. Well, you kind of get the picture. But just thinking about it has a way of sending me into this glorious toxic shock. The problem was I couldn't keep this girlish figure any longer and those healthy organs forever with this type of eating. But I tried to play both sides of the street for as long as I could until my doctor called everything to a screeching halt. He said, "Young lady, you've got to change your eating habits." And I actually talk more about that in episode 5. But the thing was, I had to give a serious look at changing my eating habits and taking medication. That is, if I wanted to live a rich old age. So let me preface up front, want to get this out in the open. I am not a nutritionist or a doctor. And I'm just sharing some of the things I found on my journey and that worked for me. You see, my goal is to get you thinking about ways that you can make these changes and enjoy life and food and master your Monday. So, first, let's qualify what is comfort food. And according to Wikipedia, comfort food is that nostalgic and sentimental food that has a sentimental value. And it's based on, a lot of what we lean into. And most of us, we lean into those high calorie foods or those high carbohydrate foods that make us feel so good. And they're really easy to prepare. And it's comfort foods are really an individual thing that's usually based off of things that you've learned to in your childhood or that you love, or cultural based, like things that a specific culture eat as cultural food. Now, the thing is, when we eat culture foods, they trigger this reward system in our brain, this system of pleasure or a temporary sense of emotional high and relaxation. They're indulgent and they're convenient. So, at times like this, when we're dealing with a pandemic or when we have emotional stress or we're dealing with guilt, this is the first thing we go to. We kind of self-medicate ourselves and we want something that make us feel good. Those things like ice cream for those women and big old steaks for the men, because men and women do find different levels of comfort food. Men tend to like those hearty meals like those steaks and soups and casseroles, those things that kind of fill you up and make you feel good and makes you want to go comatose on the couch. And women, we like those snack foods like potato chips, Doritos, ice cream, chocolate, candy bars, all those things. But regardless, they are comfort foods, and most of them aren't great for our figure or our health. And what keeps us captive is things like the flavor, the smell. Two things really stand out for me that draw you to comfort food, and that's the fat value and the sugar value. If you remember Paula Deen, one of the things that she always put in her food was at least one stick of butter. But if you've noticed, if you watched her in the later years, she has stopped putting as much butter and she has started cooking more healthier. Well, that's the same thing we have to do in our lives because now the cat's out of the bag and we know the truth and we can't hide it any longer. We know that the effects on our bodies. So things like bacon, french fries, fried chicken, potato chips. No, you don't have to give them up totally, but you can change things around. Do things for fat like use fruit as a substitute. So when I bake, I love using applesauce or mashed bananas to use instead of that fat and that oil, especially that butter. And then I also allow when I cook my meats, is allowed to the fats to drip off. Things like rotisserie chicken or baking. And then I like to remove the skin. But if you don't want to remove the skin because you still want some of that flavor, one of the things that you can do is cook it with the skin, especially like chicken breasts, because they can get really dry. So you cook it with the skin, but you take the skin off before you eat it, and then change the type of oils that you use. I use olive oil for almost everything instead of butter. And I use it for sauteing too, but I don't use it for frying. One, I don't fry. And two, it has a high flash point. So I don't use olive oil, but I will use coconut oil or coconut milk when I'm baking. And if you really have to use butter, use real butter. It actually is healthier for you if you can use animal things that are made from animals. But actual butter, real butter, is better for you than margarine because it has less chemicals in it. It's less processed. And now the sugar. Let me tell you, the game changer for me is one, I have to go cold turkey when I give up sugar. And sometimes I'll sneak some back in there. But to start all over again, just to get that taste and that craving out, I have to go cold turkey. But as I said, the game changer for me was later when I found out that what kept that fat around the middle, what kept me bulging in the tummy where I never had the flat tummy was sugar. Sugar sits right around our middle. And then I was able to give it up a little better, a little easier at least, not totally. So, what do I do? Simple sugars are not good for you because they're processed. However, in one case, local honey is good for you in some ways. And that's because if you have allergies, you want to use local honey. Why? Because the local bees are pollinating in the local flowers, and usually those are the things that you're allergic with. So they help you build up that immunity. That local honey helps you with your allergies. So I will use honey, but I don't use it often. Use complex sugars or eat complex sugars, things like fruits. I have some type of fruit every day with my veggies. I love veggies and use dried fruits. So when I make something that I call my baked oatmeal, it's actually a oatmeal bar because I also have a deficiency with or a sensitivity to gluten. So I don't use wheat. And so I use oats. And I make this bar, but in this bar, I put dried fruit, things like dried apricots or dried prunes or raisins. But these are the ways that I have sugar, and I don't put sugar in it because these take care of it. Another thing I use instead of chocolate is carob because carob is derived from a plant. And so that's better for you. And if I need a little bit of sugar, what do I use? Stevia. Stevia, pure stevia, is also from a plant, but you have to be careful because it's 300 times more potent than sugar. So you need just a tiny bit. Otherwise, it turns whatever you were trying to make sweet a little bitter. It's all about substitutions when you want to have healthy comfort food and learning how to substitute. Just the other day, I made spaghetti, but I want it thicker. So what did I do? Well, two things. One, instead of using beef, I use ground turkey. And instead of using hot I use hot Italian sausage. I use turkey, hot Italian turkey sausage. The other thing that I put in there is to thicken up my tomato sauce is you can use zucchini, ground up zucchini, or ground up or processed. I call it processed, ground up. What was it? Carrots. And so I'm getting my vegetables in your spaghetti. And if you have kids, this is a great way to get vegetables in them and they never know it. So I thought that was so cool. Mushrooms is also good for you and good in your spaghetti. But you see how I substituted right there? When I eat my greens, I still love collard greens and kale and string beans, all those things that this Southern girl loves. But instead of putting that pork in there like my grandmother used to do, I now put smoked turkey necks or turkey wings, which are better for you. And most of the time, you don't eat the meat anyway, but it gives a great flavor to your food. And it's that old comfort taste of the South. So I love it. Another substitute I usually have around me all the time are nuts. I love nuts, but I've done my research and I pick the nuts that are best for you health wise. I love almonds and pecans. Walnuts are also great for you. And I put cashews in there. That is my guilty pleasure, cashews. But I buy them all raw and I bake them myself. I actually roast mine at 300 degrees in the oven for about an hour. You watch it until it gets the color that you want your roasted nuts. And I usually start with maybe a tad bit of olive oil and salt, mix them up in a pan, lay them on a baked cookie sheet, and let them roast. And I'm telling you, once you do your nuts that way, you never go back. And I just keep a jar of nuts around in the house. So whenever I have that desire to snack, at least I'll snack on my nuts and I get pure protein. Kale chips are great. Want potato chips? Try kale chips. If you like kale, kale chips would work. And me, as I said, I have a problem with gluten. So I also eat whole grains. I love rice, but I eat brown rice, much better for you. And after a while, you start loving that nutty flavor. And it's great. Like under your, I use it under my spaghetti instead of my pasta. I use that, or in your chili. Those are great things to use. As I said, my go to substitute is turkey or chicken. And my all time favorite, you will almost always see a pot of them sometimes during the week, is beans. Do mine from scratch, where you have to let them sit overnight and soak. And I do everything from scratch because you want to keep your ingredients down between, say, 3 to 5 ingredients, especially if you're buying some. So when I make my own stuff, I know exactly what's in it and I know how healthy it is. And that's great. So, beans, always make a pot of beans, but to season my beans, back to my smoked turkey necks or turkey wings. Now, if you find that you're not a meat type person, but you want that smoke flavor, there is a liquid smoke. Now you're getting that sense there is comfort food out there. You just got to learn how to make it. And another great substitute for meat is mushroom and tofu. My all-time favorite is seafood. I love myself a good salmon. So I either fix salmon in the oven, salmon in, I'm going to tell you my secret, my air fryer. And that's without no breading. And it's awesome. But if you want to bread it, I'm going to tell you what you do. Use um, what I call not processed, but almond meal, or actually just grind some almonds and use them as your crust. Now look at that. All protein and all great for you. So I love seafoods like crabs and shrimp, scallops, fish, flounder, every kind. These are great for you and healthy for you, and you can do so much with them. And soups. Soups are a wonderful, hearty comfort food, but just by the ingredients you use, you can keep them healthy. My number one secret, I'm going to tell you this. Don't tell anybody. My number one secret is, instead of water to season everything, I use either vegetable broth or chicken broth. And then if you get that craving for ice cream, it's all about the smoothies. Mhm. If you want to look at recipes, go to Simple Green Smoothies. But I make my own smoothie using pea protein, frozen fruit, my secret, instead of ice, frozen fruit, and frozen kale or spinach. Put a banana in there, frozen banana too for the sweetness, and coconut water, not milk, coconut water. And you have a low calorie smoothie that feels like you're eating and tastes like you're eating ice cream or sorbet. And then we always want water. I'm a Southern girl, so iced tea, mm, especially sweet tea, Pepsi, Coke, Pop, Orange Crush, great. But no, I had to give all that up. So now it's all about carbonated water. I get my water, but I get my fizz too, my buzz. So carbonated water is a big one for me. And you make sure you get the carbonated water that does not have added sugar or saccharin in it. It's just carbonated water and natural flavors. And after a while, you like this better than soda, or at least you're willing to give soda up more. But all this is great, but you need something to help you. And that's the tricks of the trade. So, what things can help you? Well, first of all, spices. Cut back on the salt, but go heavy on the spices. And one of my favorite spices, almost all of my spices come from Dr. Flavor Spices, because she has awesome blends. And I'll put all these in the show notes, these places where I get a lot of this stuff. But Dr. Flavor Spices, she has blends like uh, what is it? Garlic, ginger, lime, Southwestern, Nola, which is what I use a lot in my soups because it's that New Orleans flair. Like if you want to make gumbo as a soup, and I'm telling you, you can make a healthy gumbo. Or if you want to make what is the other thing? Oh, she has what is another one of my favorites? Oh, adobo. She has adobo, and I love her adobo because I use that in a lot of things that I would use chicken with. Because I don't know if you know what chicken adobo is. It's a Filipino dish, but it is wonderful. And that's another good one that you can fix and make healthy. So, spices, first of all, use stuff like cumin, curry, garlic, onions. All these things help to spice up those things that you're missing, so you're not depriving your flavor. And then I use a crock pot. So why do I use a crock pot? Because it actually sets those flavors. You know how a good chili and a good spaghetti are always best the longer they cook and let those flavors marinate in each other. So that's why sometimes it's easy to use a crock pot. And we're our mastering your Monday folks. So we want to do it where we have more time. So you can set your crock pot in the evening and it's ready in the morning, or do it in the morning and it's ready for dinner. So set your crock pot. I use an air fryer, another one of my favorite tools, because you don't need batter. And I love a good chicken wing. I love to snack on chicken wings. So you can do it without a batter. Make your chicken wings. It's all about the flavor and how that rosemary and a little bit of olive oil and the salt and the pepper. And you have a great chicken wing. Put a little hot sauce on it. See, Southern girl again. Use a rotisserie because your fat can roll off of your meat, but you still have that flavor. And then my Instapot, which is quick and easy. When I want fall off the bone type food, when I want my greens to just melt in your mouth, well, that's where my Instapot is. And it's quick and easy. Have your whole meal in 45 minutes. The thing is, change the way that you're cooking or eating something. Simple things like eating it raw. There's a lot more that I eat raw now and a lot more that I eat baked now. And if I get that desire for a fried food, I put it in the air fryer. So let me tell you what I did the other day. I wanted something different. I said, I'm always going to the restaurant and they are always doing these roasted red potatoes. So I bought me some red potatoes, cut them in fours, put garlic, olive oil, Italian season, little rosemary, put them in my air fryer, 15 minutes. I had me roasted potatoes and they were scrumptious. See, it's all about that mindset. Having healthy versions of your comfort food. Be willing to experiment and look at other cultures for ideas. Look at cultures that have long life or cultures that have less medical issues with their food, medical issues because of the way they eat, and look at some of the things they eat. One of the things is I've lived in Japan for years. Seafood is a staple in all that they eat. And at seafood, and that goes to the seaweed also, which is very healthy for you. Um, Octopus, squid, crabs, shrimp, all of that is very high, very heavy in their diet. And that's why they're so healthy. But ask yourself, is health your motivation or is weight your motivation? And I hope the answer that you tell me is health is your motivation, because weight is a byproduct of eating healthy. It's because you want to live longer. There are things that you want to do. There's a purpose and a calling on your life, and you have to have the best vessel to move forward. The whole thing is it's all about moderation, the size, and the amount that you eat. So it's not that you can't have those things from time to time that you simply love. Every once in a while, I just need a bite of chocolate, but I go for the dark chocolate because I know it has a better health value, but it still satisfies that taste. Go for moderation when I want ice cream. Girlfriend wants to go to Cold Stone ice cream at least twice a year. That's my treat on my birthday and some other time during the year. But the size I used to get, I no longer get. I used to get, gotta have it. Now I just get a like it, which is the smallest size. Or sometimes I even ask for a kid size and I get my coffee ice cream mixed with my raspberries and my almonds. And I just sit there and savor, enjoy each bite. Each, I just keep that spoon in my mouth and mm, just savor each spoonful. That's how we have to enjoy our food. It's not about the amount, it's about enjoying that food. So treat yourself. Just be mindful of your portion, moderation, and size. Read the labels. This is a biggie that I want to remind you. When you go out buying food and you think you're cutting something out, read the labels. There is a lot of sugar hidden in a lot of foods. So that's why I encourage you to cook things yourself. And if you don't have time, cook it and put it in the freezer for later. But read the labels. Be sure you know what you're getting. I even read the labels on my water. Remember, I told you, make sure it's carbonated water and fruit flavors. Simple. 2 ingredients. I know exactly what I'm getting. I do the same thing when I get my, um, what was it I was telling you? The broth. When I get my broth, I look to see how much other stuff they put in the broth. When I get my almond butter, love me some almond butter, have some almost every day, but it's usually just the ingredient raw almonds. Simple as that. No sugar. I mean, no sugar and no salt. If I want salt in it, when I mix it real good, I add a little salt. But I control the salt, not them. There's no substitute, though, for exercise. Exercise is a complement to your eating healthy. You know, it is all about mastering your Monday. That's why you're here with me today. And part of mastering your Monday is mastering your health, your body, your life. How can you do the things that you want to do? How can you be the person that you want to be if you're worried about your health and you're not healthy? If you're not in top shape? If you're not at your best? So when we want to master our Monday, we still want to treat ourselves. We still want to have those comfort foods, but we're going to make it a healthy comfort food now. I am so glad that you were able to hang out with me today for our ringside chat because I want you to know you are amazing. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. These are small steps that can go a long way, and I may even take it further and talk later in a few other episodes. If you'd like to hear more recipes, some of the recipes that I've come up with, or if you want to hear more ways of substitution, whatever it is, I'd love to tell you more. So just let me know in the comments. But make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And one more thing I'd like you to do for me. That's visit masteringyourmonday.com/pathway. And that's where you'll find more goodies and gifts just for you. So make sure to let me know again how I can serve you further, whether it's more recipes, or whatever it is that you need to know to master your Monday. Until next time, take care. Bye bye. I want to thank you for listening to the Mastering Your Monday podcast. I hope you learned at least one tip or technique you can walk away with and implement today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and let us know how much you enjoyed it and what you learned from this episode. We honor your time and your commitment to Mastering Your Monday podcast. And as always, we want to remind you, you are cherished, respected, valued, and in control. See you on the next episode.